All right, hey everybody, Paul here with Road Trip Tiny Trucker. We're on vacation and little baby here and I are giving Mama a break inside. We are in just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, in a beautiful little cabin out here. Really quiet, peaceful. So we're on vacation, but I thought I would still do an episode because I wanted to do cost per mile. Now, what I did was took a guy's advice. And you're gonna have Nicolette hanging along here for the ride. So what I did was I took a little advice. I'm here in drinking my beer on vacation, so we're not doing this on the road. So as I said, we're gonna do an interesting episode where I'm gonna just hold the phone, and we are doing a going to the glass episode. That episode is going to be on cost per mile. Okay. Now these numbers are not my numbers exactly. I use some of them, but I'm exaggerating on some of them. But my point is that you need to be able to know your cost per mile. If you don't know your cost per mile, getting into this type of job, you probably shouldn't be doing it. If you're gonna own it, if you're gonna own the company, if you're gonna own your own truck and trailer, right, Nicolette? You need to know your cost per mile. Does this sound exciting? She looks so excited, doesn't she, about talking about cost per mile? So we're going to talk about cost per mile. So what I'm going to do is I've done a going to the glass, and I'm going to go ahead and show everybody my different cost per mile. But first, we're going to answer some questions from last time. So first of all, one of the things was, what is the main trailer tags on my trailer? Somebody noticed that. I'm out of Alabama, but I have main trailer tags. There's a reason for that. All right, I went ahead and set the phone down so we can talk and I don't have to hold the phone. So, main trailer tags is a very good question. There's a reason why I have main trailer tags. It's stupid cheap. You can, as long as you have an agent, so I pay a company called Main Trailer Registrations, Google it. I pay them to manage my trailer licensing. You don't have to pay sales tax in Maine. And I think it cost me $160 for a 10-year registration. So I'm done. I registered my trailers for $160. That's with their fee. That's why if you look, a lot of trailers have main registrations. You don't, if you're, and I believe, I could be wrong here, but I believe as long as you are an interstate, so meaning you're paying taxes in every state you drive through, then you can register your trailer out of state. If you are not interstate, if you're intrastate, I think you have to register it in your state. There might be some, I could be wrong there. I think I'm going off of memory here, so don't quote me on that, but that is why I have main plates. Alabama, I have to pay sales tax. I'm also really mad at Alabama for they would not give me my IRP and IFTA, so I had to lease on to get my IRP and IFTA, basically because of the truck rental, because I'm renting trucks. And they didn't know what to do. Literally, they have no provision for truck rentals, so they out of state. So they just basically clam up and say, no, they can't do it. So I leased on, and we're doing it out of Missouri. Okay, so let's jump into this. The questions, first of all, well, that was question number one. Question two, you'll have to excuse me, I got to walk around the corner and look at my questions here. Oh, does Enterprise do a regular cab? I don't know, I think they do. Regular cab is, they also do 250s, they do 3/4 tons. All I'm doing is dualies. I haven't even asked them. So you'd have to call up there, call Joe Snellenberger, call the Elkhart Truck Rental in Enterprise, or Elkhart Enterprise Truck Rental, and talk to Joe, right? Joe's a pretty good guy, huh? Okay, next up we had, aluminum. What do I think about the bolted aluminum trailers? To give you just a little heads up, in probably 2 years, I'll probably be buying them. I have no problem with bolted connections, as long as they're done right. I'm actually, the job I had before this, I was working for a company that does bolted connections. We did precision torque tools, and no problem. The bolted connection, it's just good. It's just like welding. A bad weld can break, a bad bolted connection can come loose. As long as the bolted connection is done right, it's fine. So I have no problem with aluminum bolted trailer as long as it's done correctly. I think those are all the questions. Let me double check real quick. Oh, somebody did ask me how many miles per month I put on. Right now I'm on track for about, it's right at 10,000 miles a month. But I'm also bringing new hires on, and I'm doing some training Also trying to get the company up and running. I'm hoping to do 10 to 12,000 a month is where I'm at. So let's go ahead and jump into the cost per mile calculations. I'll show you guys those. I'm just going to turn the phone around and show you up close. So they're all written down. We are going to the glass episode, but we're going to the glass in on the rental property, so a little bit different. All right, so we're going to calculate cost per mile. This is something I feel that you need to know if you're going to start a business. If you don't know what your cost per mile is, go be a company driver. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying if you don't know what your cost per mile is or don't want to know, just go drive for a company. It'd be much, much easier than this. And that's not, again, I'm not bashing anybody, but you need to know what this is. So let's talk about this. First off, to start with, I'm doing 120,000 miles a year is what I'm basing my calculations on. That can change, but I'm basing that on 120,000 miles per month or per year. Now this is, again, these numbers can change a little bit, but these are just kind of rough numbers. You have to use your own numbers, but these are things to include. So first off, insurance. All right, you can get it for $15,000 a year. You can get it a little cheaper. You can spend more. Kind of depends on your history. I'm actually a little less than that, but I budgeted when I developed my business plan. I budgeted for $15,000 a year, and you just simply take your $15,000. Okay, chill out. Divide it by 120,000, and you get 13 cents a mile. Okay, so every time you do is you take your dollar amount per year that you're going to spend, divide it by your total miles, and you get your cost per mile. Pretty simple, right? So let's jump over here to the truck payment. Now, I'm doing a rental program through Enterprise. That's costing me 22 cents a mile because I am using the flatbeds so that I can register them as tractors, not pickup trucks. Okay, so that's 22 cents a mile is what that cost me. Now, I want to point out that this will be less if you're buying a truck. However, this next category will be more maintenance. Okay, I have $3,000 in my maintenance budget. That is mainly for trailer maintenance, but there's really not much in way of the truck. They cover pretty much every maintenance imaginable on the truck. I do have a little bit in there for that, but trailer maintenance comes out to, again, that number divided by that number gives you that number, 3 cents a mile. Now we're going to jump over to the trailer purchase. Now I did calculate. I did not do time value of money for this, but basically over the course of 10 years, if my trailers last me 10 years, then they're going to cost me 5 cents a mile to operate. That does include actually a little bit for maintenance as well on those. Oh, I'm sorry. Also with this trailer and purchase, I included my equipment purchase. You better plan on spending probably $1,200 to $1,500 on straps and binders and chains and everything else to get started. Okay. Tags GPS. This also includes startup costs, your IFTA, your IRP registration, your I can't remember, Unified Carrier Registration, all that other fun stuff, your DOT costs, your FMCSA costs, all the money you need to start up with fees and everything else is going to be in this kind of tags GPS. I also have GPS because I bought every truck a GPS, a nice Garmin, so I want to calculate that in there. It comes out to 3 cents a mile. Okay. Now you're at fuel. I'm using 9 miles to the gallon. It seems to be reasonable for what I'm doing. At $2.90 a gallon, if I can maintain that, that's 32 cents a mile. That's your biggest cost right there. Okay, fuel. Now let's jump down here. ELD and phone. This is very small. It's actually less than a cent a mile, but I include it because I want to err on the side of caution. So ELD and phone is my big roads per month and my phone bill per month. I count that as part of the business. All right, so we're going to jump over here to this other window and continue. Now, these next two, I think a lot of people leave out. I put them in mainly at... All right, sorry about that, guys. So, phone quit there. As I was saying, I have accountant and lawyer. Now, I have quite a bit of money in the accountant and lawyer at 3 cents a mile a piece. That's pretty high. But again, I'm over-exaggerating because I don't want to... I'm over-exaggerating because I don't want to miss anything, right? So I want to be high. Now, if you notice on this, you don't see anywhere factoring. So I'm not factoring. I'm carrying, I've invoiced the broker, and then I'm carrying that 30-day myself. So if you are not spending this in accountant and lawyer fees, kind of assume that that's going to cover your factoring. Factoring 3%. If a dispatcher here is at about 7, here's your dispatcher. If it's about 7%, it's at about 17 cents a mile. This is eye-opening right here. So 17 cents a mile is pretty expensive just for paying for a dispatcher. So if you can avoid that, as well as factoring, so factoring is probably actually a little more than these two costs here. So that's mine. This is how I have it set up. Like I said, if you're going to factor, take 7%, or I'm sorry, take whatever percent it is, take the gross that you're going to make that year, multiply it by that percent. That gives you how much you're going to spend in the year on factoring, and then divide it again by the miles, how many miles you drove, and you'll get the cost per mile. All right, so let's look at the income here. Now this is very important. Deadhead versus loaded miles, right? What you actually want to be calculating is your deadhead plus your loaded miles, all right? So you might be, and these numbers are not pulled from mine. Mine kind of fluctuate, but you might be doing pretty good. Maybe loaded miles, you're doing $2.10 a mile. A lot of you are doing worse than this, but let's say loaded miles are doing $2.10. Well, here's the problem. Your total miles, including your deadhead. Remember, your truck doesn't stop costing you that right there. Your truck does not stop costing you that because you're driving empty. So it's still costing you per mile. So you need the total. Well, when you divide it by deadhead miles, you might be at $1.60, maybe $1.80. Depends on how much you're deadheading. Well, people don't, I think a lot of people aren't realizing this. They're looking at this number right here and they're saying I'm doing pretty good. No, you need to look at this number down here. And here's why, right? So let's say you're making $1.80 a mile, not $1.60, all miles, okay? Well, if you're making $1.80 a mile and your truck's costing you this $1.02 a mile to operate, you're making a whopping, what would that be, 78 cents? You're making 78 cents a mile, okay? That sounds pretty decent if you're doing $1.80, until you realize that, hey, a company driver is going to make 50, 55 cents a mile for a good company, and they don't have any of these headaches. So my whole point is you need to be careful that you know these two numbers. I think these are two of the most important numbers. You need to know what your truck and trailer and equipment and your everything is costing you a mile. That includes your insurance and your factoring and your taxes and so on and so forth. And you need to know what your total per mile is. Because at the end of the year, whatever all of your deadhead miles included, this number, subtract this number, multiplied by the number of miles you drove for that year is how much you made to your pocket. And you'll find, I think, that a lot of people, and there's a reason why 80% of the hotshot or trucking companies go out of business in 1 year. It's because I think they're probably more like around the dollar mark, you know, on this number right here, $1 to $1.20. They don't realize it, and they're ending up not even really breaking even, making zero money. So that that's a quick little synopsis on that. So anyway, guys, at the end of the day, all I'm trying to point out here is just simply you need to know what that cost per mile is, because a lot of times there's a reason 80% of companies are going out of business, of startup companies. And I think the primary thing is they don't understand what their cost per mile is. Again, it's a pretty simple formula. Take everything that you're going to spend, whatever you're budgeting for. Okay, so let's say you're budgeting for maintenance and you're budgeting $7,000 a year. If you're going to budget that $7,000, divide that by the total number of miles that you're driving, and it gives you cost per mile. It's pretty simple. If it's a percentage, take your gross income. So for example, let's say factoring takes 3%. If your gross income is $250,000, take 3% times that $250,000. That'll give you how much it's going to cost you that year, and then divide that by the total miles. That's how you calculate your cost per mile. And you need to have everything factored in here, guys. It's very, very important that you know this number. If you don't know this number, like I said, there's no harm in it. Try company driving for a while, especially if you're brand new into this industry. Especially if you're, I relatively knew what to expect because my dad's been in the trucking industry forever. But if you don't know what you're in for, I would highly, highly recommend driving for a company for a little bit. Or know these numbers, you know, understand these numbers,
because if the numbers don't work, you're not going to make money, and you're going to be one of those 80%. And very likely, I mean, not very likely, I don't want to say that. There's a possibility that I could be one of them. I mean, I'm not saying that all this planning has set me up guaranteed success. I could definitely be one of them. So just keep that in mind, and till next time. Oh, like, subscribe. I forgot to mention again. Episode 10, we're going to be giving away one of my hats. Again, this is one of the Sandcrest hats. I'm going to be giving away one of my road trip transport hats. So stay tuned for episode 10. Hopefully this one helped you. Quick disclaimer, I do apologize for the kind of different way we're doing it. We're doing it on vacation, and had the kid with me. She's with mom now, so just wanted to give you guys a quick little deal on calculating cost per mile. So we'll see you all next time.